The doors were open to the world on Friday, and on Saturday morning they were open again. But then, at the most sacred moment of all, the doors closed, and only family walked through. Alan Osmond was one of the most public figures in the history of American entertainment. He spent 60 years performing for audiences around the world. And yet the moment his family chose to mark most privately, the burial was kept entirely away from the spotlight he had lived under his entire life. Because that is exactly who Alan Osmond was, public in his purpose, private in his most sacred things. Alan Ralph Osmond, 76, passed away at his home in Lehi, Utah on April 20, 2026 after a courageous 40-year battle with multiple sclerosis. Public viewings were held on Friday, May 1 and Saturday morning, May 2 at the Suncrest Stake Center in Orem, Utah. The funeral service followed at noon on Saturday, but the burial, the final, most intimate act of saying goodbye, was a family-only service. No cameras, no fans. No public tributes performed for an audience. Just the people who loved him most, in a circle that closed around him one last time. And here is why that distinction matters so much. Alan Osmond spent his entire life giving himself to the public. He started performing when he was 12 years old. He wrote and produced music through his teenage years. He led a group of brothers onto the stages of Disneyland, the Andy Williams Show, sold out arenas across America, and 2 Royal Command performances for Queen Elizabeth. He produced the opening ceremony of a presidential inauguration. He co-created Stadium of Fire, one of the largest 4th of July celebrations in the United States, and kept building it for decades after MS took away his ability to stand on stage himself. He gave everything publicly, consistently for 60 years. And then in 1987, quietly, without fanfare, his right hand began to fail him during a concert. MS had arrived, and the battle that followed was the most personal thing Alan Osmond ever faced, more personal than any album, any performance, any award. His motto became, "I may have MS, but MS does not have me." He said that phrase at fundraisers, in speeches, in interviews. He used his private battle as a public message because that was the Osmond way. You take what is hard and you find the way it can help someone else. But even then, even in all of that public openness about his illness, there were parts of his life that remained entirely his faith, his marriage to Susan, the 8 sons he raised, and the Eagle Scout awards he helped every single one of them earn. The nights he woke up to write lyrics on paper because the music never stopped coming even when the body stopped cooperating. Those things were never for the audience, they were simply his. And so the burial was family only. And the tributes from his siblings, Donnie, Meryl, Marie, were not delivered from a stage. They were written from the heart and posted quietly online. Because when you have spent your whole life performing, the most powerful thing you can do in grief is simply speak. Meryl shared the last words Alan whispered to him, a dying request about unfinished work, about a project, the plan that still needed to reach the world. A mission spoken into a brother's ear that had nothing to do with cameras or crowds and everything to do with what actually mattered. Donnie shared a photograph from childhood, Alan's arm already wrapped around his younger brother, already protecting him, already leading, and wrote, "My protector, my guide, the one who quietly carried so much responsibility so the rest of us could shine." 30 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren stood somewhere in Utah on that day, learning something about the man who had led their family before any of them were born. Understanding, maybe for the first time, that the public Alan Osmond and the private Alan Osmond were always the same person, just seen from different distances. The family asked, in lieu of flowers, that donations go to the missionary fund of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Even in death, the gesture pointed outward, toward sending people into the world to do something that mattered. He would most want to be remembered, his family said, for his testimony of Jesus Christ and for his love for Suzanne and his 8 sons. Not the records, not the Royal Command performances, not the 100 million albums sold. His faith, his family, the things the cameras never fully captured. The burial was closed to the world, because some goodbyes belong only to the people in the room. Rest well, Alan. June 22, 1949, April 20, 2026. Thank you for watching.